Yeah. Hello everyone. Good evening. Today we have Sai Krishna Nadella, who is a scientific officer in BARC. We know Sai Krishna from our BTech days, and he passed out in 2009 batch. It means in 2015 he passed out and he graduated as a mechanical engineer from RGUKT. After that, he appeared for BARC exam and cleared in the first attempt itself, and then he joined BARC as a scientific officer. After completion of his training, he also completed his master's degree from Homi Bhabha National Institute. Now he is working as a full-fledged scientific officer. I think now he is in a scientist D position. Sai Krishna, we are very proud of you and we are glad that we could have your talk today. Thanks a lot. Now the talk is yours, please.
Hello, hi friends, good evening. Screen is visible now to everyone.
Yes, Sai Krishna, carry on.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so today in the episode 18 of webinar series that Change Rural India is organizing, I am going to talk about career opportunities in Bhabha Atomic Research Center. So thank you very much, Mohan, to introducing me, and it's a very nice one. And so basically, I am working in as a scientific officer in Bhabha Atomic Research Center, Mumbai. And in this talk, basically, I was asked to tell about Bhabha Atomic Research Center recruitment process and how to prepare for these things, and how is this training and other processes within this this thing. So basically, but I just would like to elaborate this in the sense that basically whenever someone see that Bhabha Atomic Research Center recruitment process, they might be in a, what I observed is that most of the people, aspirants, are under the impression that it is just an induction into the Bhabha Atomic Research Center, which is basically an R&D center working in nuclear industry. But basically, when an job aspirant want to get into nuclear industry in India, so it is not just BRC, it is basically Department of Atomic Energy, because BRC is just under the hood of Department of Atomic Energy. And whatever recruitment process that we are going to talk about for scientist positions, that actually is a recruitment for scientific positions throughout the DAE. It is not just into the BRC. So that's why I'm always putting BRC/DAE. So let us discuss about the organization and the work profiles and how the recruitment happens, everything related to the context of complete DAE in this webinar. Initially, this is my career timeline. Already Mohan has explained. I have joined in 2019 in RGKT Newsweed campus and graduated with BTech Mechanical in 2015. And in the meanwhile, I attempted two competitive exams, one in 2014, CSIR NET JRF exam in Engineering Sciences group. So, and then into that is for improving my opportunities for MTech and PhD programs, because I was aiming for higher studies at the time. And in 2015, I attempted GATE in the view that I would like to pursue my higher studies in IITs. And I have obtained 1138 as my rank. And then I have also applied for BRC based on my GATE and BRC online exam. I have given the exam in the same year, 2015, and I was selected for interview, and I have cleared the interview in the same year. And then I have undergone training for 1 year from 2015 to 16 in BRC Training School, Mumbai. And then from 2016, I was inducted as scientific officer at BRC Mumbai, and I have been working here only. And in the meanwhile, under the CEP program of our department, I have also pursued my master's in nuclear engineering from Homi Bhabha National Institute. So this is the brief timeline of my career. So basically, at this moment, I am in front of you telling about BRC and its recruitment process. And for this, I would like to thank Mr. Shivakumar. He is our friend, colleague, batchmate in RGKT Newsfeed. He is the person who has introduced me about BRC, that there is such kind of organization and there is such kind of exam, and so we can get a scientist positions there. We can do lifetime research. So, and with him only I have applied for BRC. With him I attended the exam. With him I attended the interview. So I just sincerely thanks him for this, for showing me this thing. Okay, so before entering into the main stream, this I want to show the statistics of selection in this recruitment process from RGKT Newsfeed, Basra and Kadapa campuses to DA units. So, of course, I do not have any official statistics. So, as per my knowledge so far, these are the number of candidates selected in various branches of engineering to DA units. So in chemical, 2 people, civil 1 person, electronics 2 people, mechanical 2 people, and metallurgy 3 people. So, and out of them, 9 people have been selected by the OCS DGFS program, and 1 person was selected by NPCL's recruitment process from mechanical engineering department. So we can see 10 is a very good number. Considering the very recent setup of our RGKT university. Okay, so these are the contents of my webinar. First, I'm going to discuss about the activities in VRC and RDAE so that we will get a better understanding of what we are going to do there if we get selected. So that will give some motivation and idea of whether we really want to do that kind of work or what we will do there. And then I will give emphasis and detailed explanation on this OCS DGFS program for scientific positions. And then I will give a brief idea about the opportunities as scientific and technical staff and opportunities for bachelor's and master's students and PhD holders. Okay, so whenever we talk about nuclear industry in India, we this figure will be discussed. Basically, Dr. Homi Jahangir Baba is a very prominent figure in India with respect to nuclear program. So he is the person after doing his PhD in physics in Europe, he came back to India and he gave the proposals to then Prime Minister Sri Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru that telling the importance of a nuclear program for an independent country like India. So he has initiated all the work and set up a department and Atomic Energy Commission, which takes care of the complete activities of atomic energy or nuclear energy in India. So he is called the father of Indian nuclear program. So, let us see the Department of Atomic Energy and its structure. Basically, we have the this agglomerate Atomic Energy Commission. This is the organization in India under which all the activities which can be directly or indirectly related to atomic energy or nuclear energy comes under. And you can see, let us discuss these various organizations a little bit so that you will get an idea of how much scope is there within DAE apart from the Bhabha Atomic Research Center. So you will understand why we will be discussing all these things once we come to the recruitment process. So first we can see that there is an independent organization under AEC, that is Atomic Energy Regulatory Board, and this is responsible for licensing of any atomic energy application in India, whether it is a nuclear power plant or any medical application or any pharmaceutical application, in any application, if any atomic energy is used, like radioisotopes are used, then Atomic Energy Regulatory Board license is required. And then comes the Department of Atomic Energy, under which we have R&D organizations, Baba Atomic Research Center, and Indira Gandhi Center for Atomic Research, Rajaramana Center for Advanced Technology, and Variable Energy Cyclotron Center in Kolkata, and Atomic Minerals Directorate in Hyderabad, and the relatively recent one, Global Center for Nuclear Energy Participation. So these 6 are the R&D organizations comes under Department of Atomic Energy. And coming to the PSUs, we have NPCIL, Nuclear Power Corporation of India, which is taking care of all the nuclear power plant in India, except those which are related to fast reactor technology. And Indian Rare Earths Limited takes care of the extraction, purification, and mining of rare earths elements which are required for nuclear industry, and UCIL, Uranium Corporation of India, taking care of uranium mining, extraction and purification, located in Jadugoda, Jharkhand, and ECIL, Electronics Corporation of India Limited, developing the sensors, detectors, and all the other electronic components which are required by Department of Atomic Energy, and Bhavini, Bharati Navikiya Vidyut Nigam Limited. This is the similar to NPCIL, which takes care of the power plants which are related to fast reactor technology. This is located in Kalpakkam. And we have industrial facilities, heavy water board, taking care of the production of heavy water for all the heavy water related nuclear power plants in India, and nuclear fuel complex, which fabricates fuel and fuel related components and supply to all nuclear power plants in India. It is located in Hyderabad. And BRIT, Board of Radiation and Isotope Technology, whatever the radiation isotopes that we are other accelerator related technologies that we use in food processing, agricultural applications and medical applications, for all of them the BRIT will take care. And then we have service organizations. So Department of Purchase and Stores taking care of tender processes, and DCSM, Department of Construction Services and Management. This will take care of the residential colony construction management for all the units which are located, all the DA units around the country. And the GSV is also similar organization taking care of the units located near the Kalpakkam. And we have so many aided institutions under Department of Atomic Energy. We have TIFR, TMC, SINP, IOP, Indian Institute of Physics, Institute of Physics, and Harish Chandra Research Institute, and National Institute for Science Education and Research, Institute of Mathematical Sciences, Institute of Plasma Research, Atomic Energy Education Society, and Homi Bhabha National Institute. So out of these, you might have heard about TIFR, one of the very old and very well-known research institute in India. And TMC, I would like to highlight, this is the Tata Memorial Center, which takes care of the cancer-related research and therapy and technology deployment and testing in related to the medical field. So this is one thing that is directly serving the cancer patients through the Tata Memorial Hospitals. And HVNI is the institution in which I have done my master's, and other higher studies also can be done there. So I just tried to put up all these institutions by locations on the Google map to just give an idea of what is the spread of these various units in DAE in the national scenario. So you can see it is almost spread throughout the country. And so now let us see the tagline of Department of Atomic Energy. Here you can see atoms in the service of nation. So it says that for this nation, India, so whatever the application that you can think of related to atomic energy or nuclear energy, so everything will be taken care from the starting point to the end. So from mining to the deployment to to the waste disposal, everything will be taken care under the hood of Department of Atomic Energy. It is completely in public sector and working under the central government of India. So let us see what are the services these atoms do for the nation. So the first and foremost is electricity generation using nuclear power plants, and we have medical applications. We have various radiation-based diagnostic techniques like positron emission tomography and others, and various radiopharmaceuticals are there, and cancer diagnosis therapy is also done using atomic energy, using radioisotopes. And we have applications in industries for radioisotopes again, for material testing like radiography and other techniques and quality control. And we have applications in water conservation where these radiation isotopes will be used as a tracer material for detecting the aquifers, water aquifers, and this movement of the water in those aquifers with respect to time and water table movements, levels. So many things which we cannot directly see by eyes, we can detect by using radioisotope tracers. And we have applications in food processing in which we use irradiation techniques to improve the shelf life of food items. Here we can say that either by killing the microorganisms or deactivating the eggs of some could be there in those fruits and that meat and other things, so that their shelf life will be increased. And because of these techniques, we actually increased our export of mangoes to foreign US and European countries several fold. And then coming to agricultural field, by inducing genetical mutations, which will give favorable various crops. So we can use radiation isotopes for this purpose. And so far, we have delivered more than 40, I think it is nearly 48 types of crop varieties we have genetically modified and enhanced in their productivity and their reduces their cycle time, water consumption of various, like you can say green gram, black gram, brown nuts, various rice varieties and all these things. So these are some of the applications of atomic energy. So you can see either we are generating heat for power production or we are generating radioisotopes for catering various applications which I have just told. So let us see basically how these heat and isotopes are generated, so that we will get a detailed understanding of what exactly you are doing in the department. So this energy and isotopes can be generated in two ways. One is nuclear fission. So this we have studied in our high school science and even in class 2. So basically whenever a neutron hits a fissile element here given as uranium-235, it becomes unstable and it will get divided into two smaller nucleus, and those are called daughter products. So, and it will also gives the energy. So this energy will be used to heat up the water and then to make the steam and run the turbines, and the remaining rest of the things are similar to thermal power plants. So this is the way how we generate energy. This is the physics behind that. And the next thing is isotopes. So in the same nuclear fission process, whatever the daughter nucleides that are generated, here I have shown krypton-92 and barium-141. This is just one combination, but there are numerous such combinations which are possible with the same fission. So basically these nucleides are also radioactive. So as soon as they go for alpha decay, beta decay, or gamma decay, so they produce, there will be nuclear transformations to produce other isotopes, and out of those isotopes, whichever isotopes gives favorable radiation for applications which we have just discussed, those isotopes will be extracted from the fuel after it is burnt in the reactor, and then those will be properly contained and in the safe package and delivered to the application area. for deployment. And other way in which we can generate radioisotopes is ion accelerators or particle accelerators. Here I have given one small example. Basically, if you take a proton accelerator, it's basically an electromagnetic device which is actually accelerating, means giving kinetic energy, increasing the kinetic energy of any charged particle or ion using time varying electromagnetic fields. So here if you take a proton accelerator, it will give a proton stream of certain energy, and this stream will go and hit the target, which is having cadmium 112, and one proton is taken into the nucleus, and then two neutrons will be released to make the indium-111 isotope. And this isotope is used as a radio labeling material to label the proteins and other materials within our human body. So it is one of the highly used medical isotope. So this is just one example. So this is also one way of generating the isotope. So these two are the fundamental principles by which we generate the energy and isotopes to meet our application requirements. So having said that, let us see the type of work we do. So we do fundamental research in sciences, and we do nuclear reactor technology development. Various technologies are there, and starting from mining of the fuel, mining of the ore, to the waste management and waste disposal, each and every stage through which the fuel goes through. At every stage, necessary research and development, design, manufacture, and deployment, all these things, and including the safety aspects, everything will be taken care in the department. And also, as I said, accelerators, so technology development for accelerators also, and for getting accelerators for different ions, particles, for different energies. And we also develop technologies for direct consumer uses in medical, industrial, food, agriculture, and water conservation fields. And let us say recently one tele-ECG is invented, which is just a portable device, which like at any location wherever the patient is, you just take the tele-ECG and you can find out the heartbeat. You can do actually ECG and send the signal to the doctor who is remotely located. So these kind of direct consumer products are also developed, and this technology will be transferred to the industries. And we also have several rural development initiatives which we develop technology and transfer to the prosperous industries who can deploy them in the rural areas. So so basically nuclear industry, it's like a daily basis challenges. Means we always feel our work very challenging on daily basis. So it never failed to put up challenges in all the perspectives. So then, as I am a mechanical engineer, so I just would like to give a bit more about what mechanical engineers do in the department. So basically, we do same research, development, design, manufacture, operation, management, all these things we do. Basically, equipment design, analysis, and like using ISME codes, finite element analysis, fracture mechanics, experiments, testing. And coming to the thermal field, we do thermal design of equipment like heat exchangers, pumps, and other things, and we perform experiments. We perform safety simulations in component level to system level, and we develop computer codes for these purposes. We perform manufacturing. If you see accelerators, these are very highly precise instruments, so advanced manufacturing techniques we develop and deploy, and quality control techniques, and we also do services like ventilation, chilled water requirements for all the experimental facilities and plants and buildings. So their design, installation, operation, maintenance, all these activities. And even in the nuclear power plants, we do work as engineers and supervisors for operations and maintenance. So all these kind of activities mechanical engineers do. A single person doesn't do all these things, but generally one or two activities he will be allotted and throughout his life. So, but one thing that I observed in my 4-year experience is that mechanical engineer is an all-rounder in nuclear industry. So, I have been doing little work related, interdisciplinary work, even related to some civil engineering, chemical engineering, even computer science during these 4 years. Then what I observed is that, and even with the experience of my colleagues, what I understand is that once you enter the nuclear industry, don't expect that you will be limited in your work only to your core activities. So since it is a very highly interdependent technologies, so you are always supposed to and expected to explore the other branches, other concepts as per the requirement. So keep that in mind once you join here. So for any other branches, if you want similar information, so just drop me a mail so that I will just gather such information and revert back to you by asking my colleagues. Having said all these things, so I understand that some understanding you have got about the Department of Atomic Energy and what kind of work and what applications we work on. So let us quickly jump to our recruitment process. This is mostly awaited in this webinar. So BRC, OCS and DGFS program. This is basically written as BRC's program, but just because BRC Mumbai is conducting this. But otherwise, it is basically a gateway to scientific officer position. It's equivalent to scientist position in all the units of BAE. So what is this program? This is basically a training program. So it's a training program to convert a engineer or scientist who came from an academic background and to a person who knows well his industry, that nuclear industry, and will to initiate the person in the nuclear industry, whatever subjects, concepts have to him, those will be taught during this program. It's basically a training program. And here we have two programs. One is OCS and DGFS. In OCS, you can see orientation course for engineering graduates and science postgraduates. The title speaks itself. So it's basically an orientation course, and the candidates are for if engineering graduates who has BTech or BE degree, and science postgraduates who has MSc degree in science fields. So there is another program that is DGFS, which is a DJE Graduate Fellowship Scheme. So we will discuss the details of these two programs in the upcoming slides. So this is conducted by BRC Mumbai. So your exam will be conducted by BRC Mumbai and at various centers in the country. And finally, the interview happens in BRC Mumbai, and the training will happen in one of these 5 training schools. We have a BRC training school in Mumbai, IGCA training school Kalpakkam, RRCAT training school in Indore, NFC and AMD training schools in Hyderabad. The allocation of training school depends on your branch and number of seats available in those training schools at that time. Okay, so let us see the which disciplines are involved in this program. In science, for science postgraduates, we have physics, chemistry, bioscience, and geology and geophysics disciplines. And for engineering, we have mechanical, chemical, material science, civil, electrical, electronics, instrumentation, computer science, and nuclear engineering branches. There are other branches also with certain terms and conditions. So I recommend you that if you are not belonging to these groups, you please refer the recruitment notification. It's a very comprehensive document released by BRC every year in January to understand the qualification criteria very clearly. And one more thing is that minimum 60% of the scores is required in your qualifying degree to apply for this program. So let us see the recruitment process overall, just for a glimpse, and then we will discuss each aspect of the recruitment individually. So it all starts in the year Y. I just gave you an indication because it's not within few months, nothing will complete. So it's a long-term process. So I have given for the year I, it's a current year. January, the notification released by BRC Mumbai. You can find it in BRC website, DAE website, and even in the employment news. And then you will be applying for this thing either through GATE or BRC online exam or both, and you will be giving GATE in February or BRC online exam in March or both. Then based on your qualification in this exam, you will be called for interview, and that will happen in May to June in the same year. And then based on your interview performance, they will give you an offer letter selecting that you have been selected for this program, but you have to select whether you need OCS program or DGFS program. So basically, if you would select OCS program, then the path is like this. So first you will be having 1 year training from August to July of the next year, and this 1 year training will be there. And after this 1 year training, near the end of this training, you will be asked to select the DA unit in which you would like to be working for the rest of your life. Why I am telling rest of your life? Because the job here is non-transferable. Wherever you are joining, you will be there for till your retirement. Okay, so keep that in mind. Training is very important and it will decide your full career in DE. And then there will be an induction into the department, whatever you have selected. In the next year, August onwards, you will be, so if this year, January, you have notification, and the next year, August onwards, you will be inducted as a scientific officer C in the department, which you have selected. And coming to the DGFS stream, we have, initially, the student has to select the DA unit, and then he will be sent out for pursuing his MTech degree in the institution in which he has already got admission based on his GATE qualification. Then he will be pursuing for 2 years, and then he will be inducted into the department in the August of next year after he is finishing his MTech successfully, and then he will be trained in nuclear engineering and technology and allied techniques for 4 months after his induction, and then from the December of the next year he will start working as a scientific officer C in the department. So this is the total recruitment process from the notification till the joining of the department as scientific officer. One more very important thing is you have a bond. So from the date of induction into the department, so 3 years of bond is applicable for the candidates, and here you can see OCS and DGFS programs have different stipend structure, so different amounts for bond. So those details you can find, they may change year to year, so you can just refer to the recruitment notice. There it is very much clearly written how much bond amount will be there and how much stipend will be paid for both the programs. Okay. So let us go in detail for each step. Let us first see about the exam. So basically they give you 3 options. Either you want selection for interview by GATE exam or BRC online exam or both. So what I recommend is, as far as you are attempting both GATE and BRC online exam, always select the option for both. It will increase the chances of selection. And don't think that, let us say, if you have, some people might be thinking that, let us say they have applied for both the exams and they have got qualified in GATE, but they could not qualify BRC online exam. So if the selection committee sees that I have applied for GATE but not online exam, they will disqualify me for interview. No, it is not the case. Basically, the selection for interview is like in either of the exam, if you are passing the qualification mark, it is sufficient for you to appear for the interview. So I always recommend to attend both the exams and give the option for both when you are applying for this recruitment process. So coming to the GATE, so GATE preparation is altogether a different topic and maybe covered in a different webinar. So basically the requirements for this recruitment process is either the current year or the previous year GATE scores you can use for this recruitment process. And coming to the BRC online exam, so we have 100 objective questions. As said, it is an online exam, and we have to solve these 100 questions, objective type questions, in 120 minutes. And for right answer you will get 3 marks, and for wrong answer you will deduct 1 mark. So there is a negative marking, be careful about that. and you will be provided an online calculator and any other electronic gadget or calculator or anything else is not allowed to the exam center. Okay, so at our time we were not even provided online calculator and we were not even allowed offline calculator. We had to solve all the problems numerics by hand only. So but now it is good that they have provided online calculator. And one more thing you can see here is you have more number of questions compared to GATE, but you have less amount of time. So it is basically very time limiting exam. So whenever you preparing for this exam or attempting this exam, so what thing you need to keep in mind is you should not what thing you need to keep in mind is you should not waste your time on any single question for more than 2 minutes, because you have, if you see roughly, you have 1 to 1.5 minutes on each question here. So and you should have seen all the questions, 100 questions by the time you finishes the exam. It should not happen like you are just trying to attempt the question one by one, and even before you reach the final question, even before you look at the final question, the time is over. Maybe the final question might be much easier one and you can attempt it. So that's why always keep that in mind that your time is limited. So whenever you are confident that within 1.5 minutes you can solve the question, then only attempt it. And you can similar to GATE, you can keep it there is an options for marking them for solving for later. So once you finish seeing all the questions, and you can again come back mark that I will see later, and those things again you can start attempting. So it's a very convenient thing, options they have provided. So utilize those options properly and try to maximize your outcome. And one more thing is that the cutoffs for mechanical department are usually 140 to 150 marks out of total 300 marks. So we can say simply that if you can attempt around 55 questions out of 100 with the accuracy of 90 to 95%, there are very good chances that you can be qualified in that exam. So don't put an objective that I will solve 100 questions. So keep in mind that accuracy is very important. Okay, and coming to the preparation, so the usually whatever preparation you do for GATE exam or for IAS prelims, that objective type exams, that preparation will be sufficient. Nothing different. But one thing is that English and general studies kind of things are not there. Only mathematics and core subjects are in the syllabus. So you can always see the detailed syllabus in the BRC online exam portal. Okay, so this is all about exam. Then coming to the next step, that is interview. So basically it happens in May to June for 30 days, 2 slots in each day. You can select any slot based on your convenience. It happens in Mumbai in BRC campus. So initially there will be a verification of certificates, so you need to bring your certificate, whatever provisional and final certificates you have, so you bring them and they will check all your qualification requirements. Of course they will give you very nice and tasty snacks too, and then the interview will be around 30 to 90 minutes. But as everyone say, and based on my experience, once you enter the interview hall, you will just do time travel. So you just realize it once you come out of the hall and just look at your time, and you see that, wow, I thought it was just 15-20 minutes, but 1.5 hours has passed. So that is the time travel that the scientist, that committee, interview committee takes you through. So it's a very wonderful experience, and they will ask only technical questions. There are no HR questions. There are nothing like tell me about yourself, this kind of questions. So 1 or 2 other kind of questions they can ask just to make you feel comfortable with the environment and to reduce your tension. Or if you are feeling nervous, they can ask some non-technical questions to relax you. Or maybe if they want to assess your career goals and orientations, then also they can ask you 1 or 2 non-technical questions. Otherwise, only technical questions are there. And they also check your file very thoroughly. So keep all your certificates and necessary documents in a neat and tidy manner. And if you want, you can take your BTech or MSc project if you want to show them. but it's not a mandatory. And as usual, you just go attend this interview in a formal way. So here, uh, I would like to give my interview experience. So I just entered the hall. There are 7 committees. Out of that, I was given committee 1 for mechanical engineering, and I entered the hall. I have just seen there. The scenario is like that. You don't have very long table, and all the delegates were sitting to shoot the questions at you, and on the other side you are just sitting alone in a chair in a this kind of position. So it is not like that. Here there is a very small table with bunch of A4 sheets, pencils, erasers and sharpeners, and 6 people sitting around the table, and on the same table 1 seat will be provided for you to sit just in between them, and so that they will ask from around you. The questions come from around you, not just from in front of you. And I was asked to, I have given my file to one person, he was checking it, and I was asked to write down 5 subjects of my interest, so that they can ask their questions in those areas only. So I have written my 5 subjects, and they have asked me questions, and while I am solving those things on the paper, so they were very clearly observing each and every step, and they are prompting me to divert my attention. Attention means to divert, means to check my confidence in the steps that I am taking, and they also are giving hints when I get stuck. And even out of 10 questions they asked, I could answer only 7 questions, and the remaining 3 questions they tried to give me hints, but I could not catch it up. So they have told the answers, they have given even explanation for those answers to me. And finally, after those 10 questions, they told me that now you can, your interview is over and you can leave. After coming out, I realized that it took 80 minutes for these 10 questions. But it is really a wonderful experience, and I will never forget this. And similarly, many of the candidates who are attending this interview have similar experiences. So I have gathered experiences and questions of my fellow trainees also, and mine also, and we have compiled those questions and experiences into 2 blogs. So these are the links for those blogs. So I just request the organizers to keep these links available in somewhere in the description of the YouTube video or somewhere, so that the viewers can readily access those blogs to see the questions. So that will help you to get an understanding of what kind of questions they are asking. And I had so prolonged discussions with my friends and fellow colleagues about their interest, their interview experiences during my training time also. So basically for this interview preparation, my companions are these 5 textbooks, and these are the 5 subjects that I have told, and these are the subjects I love from my BTech time, and because of the kind of textbooks that are available for these subjects. For engineering mechanics and strength of materials, I was relying on Beer and Johnson textbooks, and for thermodynamics, fluid mechanics and heat transfer, I was relying on Cengel series textbooks. These 5 are the textbooks which actually showed me the physics in front of my eyes, and I get really excited throughout my BTech academics preparation for exams, and even for my preparation for GATE and other MTech admission exams, and even for BRC exam. So these are the wonderful gifts to the mechanical engineers from these authors. And coming to the syllabus, BTech level syllabus it is similar to GATE syllabus only. So you need not go anywhere beyond your GATE syllabus or BTech level syllabus for interview preparation. There is no problem at all. And as a guidance to for this interview preparation, I have compiled the things which I can, from my side, that this is how, if you prepare, there are high chances that your interview can be successful. So it all starts with excitement in learning, and with a combination of right textbook or teacher. So basically, as I said in the previous slide, during my BTech time, my lecturers introduced those textbooks to me, and luckily our RGKT campus library has a good number of copies of those textbooks, so that we can take it and read it extensively. And they actually are very interesting, and I got so much excited in learning these things that I could see these concepts around me in natural and artificial world. So means so this kind of thing actually gives you a sort of sound understanding and knowledge of all these concepts. So this is one of the most important fundamental step in your preparation. And the second thing is there are four aspects which you need to focus whenever you are learning a concept. And these four aspects are the things in which most of the questions are always based on in any of the technical interviews as I observed from my experience and my colleagues' experiences. So these are the things. One is assumptions. For every concept and theory, there are certain range of applicability and range of non-applicability. So it is always important to know what are the assumptions behind the theory and where it is applicable and where it is not applicable. So that this will give you a much clear understanding of the concept. And the second thing is ideal conditions, because ideal conditions are always easy to analyze mathematically and they are always easy to think in our brain, but in reality nothing is ideal. So basically you should get the art of understanding how to convert a real world non-ideal situation into an ideal situation. Like let us say, I'll tell an example. There is a balloon and the balloon got burst. So what process, what thermodynamic process that the air in the balloon has undergone? So since it's a so these kind of scenarios, I mean, of course, it is not an equilibrium process. It's not a reversible process. But from thermodynamics point of view, you can assume that okay, it is following an adiabatic process because there is no much of heat transfer because the time is very short. So basically, in this way, how you transfer the real world problems to a ideal condition so that you can analyze them. And the third thing is the limiting conditions. So we always do this tends to 0, that tends to infinity. So for every theory, there will be certain parameters which can go to limiting conditions, and maybe the behavior may change in those conditions, and the limiting conditions are always important to be analyzed. And coming to the special conditions. So these are all the things, means we generally encounter these kind of things related to chemical reactions and other things, but since it is a generic guidance, I'm including this. So for certain phenomena and process, there can be special conditions that is not applicable or that behaves in a different way. So the knowledge on those things are very important. So after all these things, I also recommend that you should have a very sound and consistent problem solving strategy. So of course like when we keep on solving so many problems while we are preparing for GATE or another exams, so unconsciously or subconsciously we develop one strategy in our mind how to attempt certain problem. So you should be conscious about how to solve and this problem solving strategies, so that whenever an unseen problem or unseen kind of scenario is put in front of you, which is typical of this BRC interview, so you should not get stuck. So then you just follow this strategy and you try to apply this strategy to that new and unseen problem, so that at least you will be able to proceed further. So, and that is the thing which actually helps in getting qualified. And one more most important thing that many of the people neglect or don't do is plotting or graphing. So basically what happens in BRC interview, so whenever they ask questions, most of the time they ask qualitative questions. They ask you to draw temperature profile in certain scenario. They ask you to draw shear stress bending moment diagrams. They ask you to draw certain thermodynamic process in some TS coordinate, and they just know you have plotted in TS coordinate, you just convert it into PV coordinates. So basically, if you have never done that kind of plotting activity in your studies, it is very difficult to immediately catch it up. So what I recommend is similar. Actually, we do shear stress bending moment diagram very much in our strength of material course, but similar kind of activity is very less done in another cases. So, like there is a isothermal process. We always know that PV is equal to constant, but So we should know that it is PV is equal to constant is basically an hyperbola in PV coordinates. What is the shape of hyperbola? How it looks? So in that way, so basically plotting also enhances your understanding of the concepts. It will give you a quantitative and qualitative idea of how things are varying, which parameter effect is more, which parameter effect is less, all these things. So as a part of your preparation for this interview, try to plot the parameters. They may be varying with respect to time or with respect to space coordinates, so one with respect to other. So the more and more plotting you do, the better and better you will understand, and the better and better you will be able to attempt these interview questions. And at last, no fear at all. Even if you have a fear, they will relax you by giving a tea or by asking some non-technical questions about to, so no need to worry about it at all. Nobody who attempted this PRC interview say that he is nervous till the end of the interview. His nervousness will be just killed as soon as he enters and start conversation with the scientists. That is the greatness of this interview. So this is what I want to tell as a guidance for interview preparation for BRC. So let us go to the next step. So yes, you have got selected in interview process. So now you have to select the OCS or DGFS. Basically, every candidate who has cleared the interview is kept under the category of OCS. But if you have got admission for MTech or MChem engineering in any previous institutions of India, and if that institution is already listed in the DGFS category in that recruitment notification, then you are eligible to apply for DGFS. So you have to get the admission letter already in your hand, and that letter you need to send to the department so that they will consider you for DGFS. I am telling you, they just consider you, and it is not sure that you will be given DGFS, because DGFS is a program which will be given to the people who has done extraordinary performance in the interview. So they will select one or two candidates who has topped the interview in each department for that DGFS program. And in some years, they do not select even one candidate also. So it is not a like for sure kind of thing that DGFS is available every year and how many seats are available. And coming to the process, we have already discussed the selection of unit, MTech, and induction into department and training for 4 months. So this is the process of DGFS. And regarding the stipend during the MTech and afterwards, the bond amounts and all this that you can find in the recruitment notice. Okay, so I have been selected for OCS. So this is the offer letter. This is the front page of the offer letter that I have got. I am showing this snippet here to you because I want to highlight certain very important things that aspirants doesn't generally have idea about. So one thing is, you can see the subject, admission to the 1-year OCS program of BRC training school. So they are not telling you that it is an induction as a scientific officer. You are not being appointed. You are so okay. So it is just an admission that you have got after clearing this interview. Okay, and the second thing, if you see here, I am happy to inform you that on the basis of your interview. So here, one most important thing that you need to understand is that the qualification to the admission into OCS program is solely on the basis of your interview. So whatever the marks or score you have obtained in GATE or the BRC online exam, those that will help you just to bring you up to the interview, but it will not be carried forward for any other further action process. So your interview performance is the only solely responsible for your selection. And going beyond, you have been provisionally selected for admission. See the word provisionally. So it means basically there are certain terms and conditions. There are so many actually. It's a 3-4 pages document. So based like with respect to those terms and conditions, if I satisfy, then only the selection of me to the admission for this OCS program is finalized. For admission of the OCS program only. Okay, so one of the criteria that they have given, that also I would like to show you, is that your admission to the training course shall be subject to the clearing of medical examination by medical officer of the DAE. So like you cannot get a medical certificate from any third party medical practitioner. So you should attend the medical examination at the training school location which is allotted to you, and there is a rigorous medical examination for 2 days, very comprehensive A to Z, everything they will check, and they will prepare a comprehensive report